Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions regarding this watch. Today we're discussing a classic. When a lot of people talk about the best of IWC watch design, the 90s always comes up. And unless we're talking about the deep heritage of the company, like the 1939 Portugueser or the Mark series of the 1940s, a lot of folks talk about the 90s being a time when IWC could do seemingly no wrong, with this reference 3706 Pilot's Watch Chronograph being an outstanding example of the breed. Made from 1994 through 2005, this example, retailed in 2006, was one of the final manufactured, although it was manufactured before IWC's transition from tritium to luminova. And that is one of several evocative elements you will find on this watch. Perhaps the most obvious trait that sets it apart from modern production is its size. In stainless steel, 39 millimeters in diameter, though it is squat at 14.9 millimeters thick, 47.9 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip, with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. The watch wears nicely. The strap is brand new and super stiff, so it hasn't broken in yet. It's exaggerating the size of the watch by pulling my wrist in on each side, and yet you can see that the fit's perfect. A wrist down to 14 centimeters circumference, even on the stiff strap, is going to wear this beautifully. And you can see, although it's not a thin watch, it will sort of nestle down with a cupped case back, so it doesn't feel as thick as it is when it's on the wrist. Over the top, again, exaggerating the width of the watch because the strap is stiff and because this angle does that. The true angle is always going to be down the barrel, where you can see I've got a lot of clearance on each side. Taking a look at the strap, it's a lovely piece. Now, of course, IWC factory strap, no crimping, no gouging, calfskin on the bottom, alligator leather on the top, large rectangular symmetrical scale, the best and most expensive cut of the beast, gloss finish, a little bit of bolstering or stuffing to give it volume, and then a sheer cut edge with lacquered profiles for refinement. We have an IWC pin buckle, which, as you can see, includes a little bit of polish and satin. Now, this watch is very intact, and by that I mean the dial in tritium is original, and the case still has all of its original sharpness and definition. The first thing that goes on these when they've been poorly or excessively refinished is this lovely expanding bevel that expands from a non-entity through a very fine taper that swells over the end of the lugs. Beautiful, and you can see it's all there. The lugs are symmetrical from side to side and end to end. Even the slight canted inflection of the lug, you can see it's not flat on the bottom. It has a little bit of angularity pointing towards the center. That is present on both sides. They are even in volume, in shape, in size, and geometry. We have a beautiful and perfectly defined break between the satin and polish of the bezel. The case flank is still sharply stepped, and then we have the significant period IWC fish style crown instead of the probus or motto crown. We also have polished shoulders to provide a little bit of bolstering and strengthening to the polished chronograph pushers. The bezel is polished on its top and satinated on its side, and you can see it gives way to a cambered sapphire over a matte black dial that includes its original factory tritium. The hands are service replacements. That is just the nature of hands on watches. You can't repress them endlessly, and in time they become a service replacement item, which is why when I look at a watch with a tritium or radium dial, my standard for originality, unless you never want to wear the watch and run it, and you know you will never service it, my standard for originality is the dial base itself. So you can see that dial base is not only completely unmarked and clean, but also original factory tritium, dead as a doornail. Tritium has a half-life of over 12 years. Radium's about 1600. So this watch, having been manufactured decades prior, that tritium is now dark, though you do get the benefit of luminova. You can tell approximately what the time is. It's a very instrument-style mark-derived dial, matte finish to resist glare, white on black, no nonsense. Chronograph registers given pride of place, as we have chapter rings for each one, though the running seconds features none. We've got a lovely and super serify font used for the letters as well as the numerals, the calendar, and it does have a double quick-set function as well as hacking seconds. When you start the chrono, watch this. I'll press start. There's no extraneous motion. This is a Valjoux 7750 based architecture, highly modified and adjusted by IWC. And so because the 7750 features what's called an oscillating pinion lateral clutch, if you press and hold to start the chrono, most times it's going to be just as seamless and jump free as a vertical clutch. Now that's always been a feature of the 7750, but it's often an unadvertised one as people take this movement for granted. But the oscillating pinion is a very old and very esoteric system that wasn't used on a whole lot of non-Valjoux chronographs for a couple of decades. Now, because of its traditional lateral clutch beauty and seamless engagement, it's coming back on horlogerie from the likes of Richard Mille, de Bethune, and F. Pigeon. We do have hacking. We have the double quickset for the date 8 calendar system. There is a cam to cycle the chronograph because the 7750 is a cam-based system. There were a couple of different IWC internal references for these movements, but the ones made at the end of the line were 7750s modified by IWC with the designation 7922. Still unidirectional winders, 4 Hz beat rate, 25 joules, 44-hour power reserve, and this actually features a soft iron cage. When you open it up, that comes off with the case back. So it has a degree of anti-magnetic assurance built in, and of course this just says the pilot's chronograph in German, which is the language of German-Swiss IWC in Schaffhausen. We do have a screw-down crown with a 60-meter water resistance rating. This watch can still meet its original factory rating, so unlike a lot of vintage watches, this one can still be worn the way it was intended. On the right kind of strap, it's absolutely surface swimmable. If you love this watch, John Mayer, are you out there? This is a put-up or shut-up piece, your favorite era of IWC. But even if you're not John Mayer, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions.